In the tapestry of European history, woven with countless threads of power, ambition, and tradition, royal titles stand out as colorful and intricate patterns, each with its own story to tell. These titles have been more than mere labels. They are reflections of authority, echoes of past glories, and sometimes whimsical expressions of the peculiarities that define the aristocratic world. The weight of a title could once determine the fate of a kingdom or an empire, and yet these same titles often encapsulated eccentricities that now invite both amusement and bewildered admiration in the modern world. This dialogue with history begins with titles that have transcended their original intent, morphing into curious artifacts of a bygone era. The Grand Panjandrum of England, a title that once rolled off tongues with great zeal, originated from a place less lofty than one might expect. It was born not from royal decree, but from the pen of a playwright, Samuel Foote, in the 18th century. Through his comedic works, Foote sought to parody the pomposity of the aristocracy, coining this grandiloquent title as a satire of self-importance. Despite its fictional roots, the term became a touchstone for those seeking to mock excessive vanity in the British upper echelons. Today, the Grand Panjandrum stands as a testament to the enduring power of humor to undermine pretension, casting a light on why such titles, far from intimidating, often provoke a chuckle or two. In contrast to the fictional grandeur of the Panjandrum, the title of Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, a title steeped in historical significance, carried a different kind of irony. This vast realm, neither holy, nor Roman, nor truly an empire, was a patchwork of kingdoms and principalities. Its emperor held the illustrious title without a throne in Rome itself, a place central to their namesake, yet often beyond their control. The Holy Roman Emperor's dominion was a complex web of allegiances and territorial claims, giving rise to a title that seemed more about aspirational grandeur than actual dominion. It is this dissonance between name and reality that renders the title both a historical curio and a reminder of the impermanence of power. Similarly, the title King of all the Britons carries with it a historical weight that belies its seemingly inflated claim. Used by Scottish and English monarchs in their quest for supremacy, the title's promise of unification was as much a political statement as it was an expression of ambition. Over time, the title found its place in the annals of history, reflecting the tumultuous journey toward a united kingdom. In today's world, its grandiosity is tempered by the realities of history, serving as a bold yet quaint reminder of the bygone aspirations of medieval kingship. The King of Jerusalem, a title that conjures images of crusader knights and holy wars, remains a fascinating relic of the past. Bestowed upon those who claimed sovereignty over the sacred city following the Crusades, it was often held by kings who never set foot in Jerusalem. This title, more symbolic than sovereign, became a part of the rich tapestry of European nobility, a ceremonial nod to a long-lost era of chivalry and religious fervor. The King of Jerusalem endures as a poignant symbol of the power of titles to transcend physical dominion and live on as emblems of heritage and aspiration. In the realm of the Holy Roman Empire, the King of the Romans was a title granted to the emperor's heir, an assurance of continuity within the imperial line. Yet, the title's ceremonial nature meant it was more a promise than a reality, often leading to confusion and laughter among those who ponder its redundancy. This, too, is a reflection of how titles, when stripped of their original grandeur, can become curious anecdotes in the narrative of history. From the ecclesiastical corridors of the Papal States arose the Count of the Sacred Palace of Lateran, a title that once denoted significant religious authority. The role came with responsibilities akin to those of a modern administrator, yet modern perceptions of its name suggest a grandeur that the position itself never quite matched. This misalignment between expectation and reality contributes to its perceived absurdity, illustrating how titles can sometimes overstate the significance of the roles they describe. Equally intriguing is the Doge of Venice, the esteemed leader of the most serene republic. The title, with its air of serenity and power, is a stark contrast to the limited authority the Doge actually wielded. Despite being the figurehead of Venetian politics, the Doge's role was one of balance, trapped between the grandeur of his title and the realities of a government that valued collective rule over individual power. The Doge's story is one of carefully curated appearances, a delicate dance between perception and reality. The paradox of power is perhaps most vividly captured in the notion of prince-bishops, rulers who straddled the sacred and the secular. Governing ecclesiastical principalities, they wielded both spiritual authority and temporal power, a duality that seemed at odds with the singular nature of most titles. This blend of ecclesiastical and noble duties highlights the fluidity of medieval titles, where the church and state intertwined in complex and often convoluted ways. Transitioning from religious orders to chivalric ones, the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights was a title that evoked martial valor and noble prestige. Founded during the Crusades, the order and its titles continued to endure long after their military relevance had waned. Today, the title serves as a reminder of the historical shifts that have rendered such martial affiliations an anachronism amidst modern sensibilities. Equally obsolete yet fascinating is the title King of the Wends, once claimed by Scandinavian kings. It referred to a now extinct group of Slavic tribes, a reminder of the fluid boundaries and ephemeral societies that once populated Europe. The title's continued use long past the demise of the Wends reveals the complex layers of historical memory, where once significant associations fade into the realm of the peculiar. The Duke of the Archipelago, a title that suggests a dominion over vast seas, in reality covered a surprisingly modest domain within the Mediterranean. The name evokes images of grand naval prowess, yet the title's actual influence was limited by geography and historical circumstance. This discrepancy between name and reality showcases how titles can project visions of power that the tangible world does not always support. In the military mosaic of the Holy Roman Empire, the Margrave of the Holy Empire stood as a title indicative of martial responsibility. Tasked with defending frontier regions, the Margrave's role was one of both governance and guardianship. Despite its historical significance, the title now carries a sense of inflated importance, a reminder of the shifting sands of political relevance. Finally, the Elector of Saxony played a pivotal role in the electoral processes of the Holy Roman Empire, a title laden with political influence and prestige. However, in the context of modern democracy, such titles evoke a quaint nostalgia for a time when power was concentrated in the hands of a few elect elite. These titles, in all their grandeur and absurdity, offer a window into the cultural and historical context that shaped them. As we reflect on this cavalcade of curious titles, we uncover the quirks and complexities embedded within the annals of European history. They serve as playful reminders of the ambitions, pretensions, and sometimes sheer whimsy of those who once wore them. In the end, these titles reveal not only the nature of past societies, but also the enduring human fascination with the symbols of power, however eccentric they may be. If you enjoyed this story so far, please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. Throughout European history, royal titles were far more than mere designations of rank or honor. They were the keys to a world steeped in tradition, hierarchy, and the ceaseless dance of power dynamics. Each title carried with it a weight not only of authority but also of cultural significance, shaping the identities of nations and the individuals who ruled them. These titles often wove a complex tapestry that reflected the intricate political landscapes of their times, with monarchs and nobles crafting names that could project strength, legitimacy, or even divine favor. In some cases, titles were employed as tools of diplomacy and strategy. They could bind territories together or keep budding rivalries at bay, serving as both shields and swords in a ruler's arsenal. Yet, amidst these august and solemn appellations, there existed titles that danced on the edge of the absurd, sometimes created in jest or as a boastful claim to lands and realms that were more fanciful than factual. One such title that captures the whimsical spirit of its time is the Grand Panjandrum of England. Emerging from the playful pen of Samuel Foote, a satirical writer of the 18th century, the title was intended as a humorous jab at the pomp and circumstance surrounding English nobility. It highlights how, even in the past, people recognized the sometimes laughable lengths to which the nobility would go to assert their status through titles. The Grand Panjandrum has since become a symbol of the whimsical nature of certain titles that, though rooted in history, resonate with an absurdity that echoes across the centuries. In contrast, the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, but not of Rome, illustrates the perplexing nature of titular claims. The Holy Roman Empire, a sprawling and often unwieldy conglomeration of territories in Central Europe, was in itself a paradox. The title of emperor suggested control over Rome, a city of immense historical and spiritual significance. But in reality, the city was largely beyond the empire's grasp for much of its existence. This irony was not lost on contemporaries, who frequently questioned the legitimacy and reach of such a grandiose declaration. Similarly, the title King of all the Britons evokes images of a unified and uncontested rule over the British Isles. Yet historically, this title was as much an aspiration as it was a reflection of reality. Used by Scottish and English monarchs to assert their dominion, it belied the persistent tensions and divisions that characterized the region for centuries. Today, the title is viewed more as a relic of the grandiose ambitions of monarchs who sought to weave disparate lands into a singular narrative of power. Meanwhile, the King of Jerusalem stands as a poignant reminder of the Crusades' legacy, a title carried by European monarchs with no real claim to the ancient city. Following the Crusades, the title persisted as a symbol of Christian dominion over the Holy Land, held by monarchs who stepped foot in the city. It underscores the symbolic nature of certain titles that, though stripped of actual authority, continued to carry immense ideological weight. The complexity of titles is further exemplified by the King of the Romans, a designation meant for the Holy Roman Emperor's successor. Intended to denote the heir apparent, the title was more ceremonial than practical, as the path to becoming emperor was fraught with political maneuvering. The King of the Romans was often a figurehead, highlighting the dissonance between the title's grandeur and the political realities of the time. Equally intriguing is the title Count of the Sacred Palace of Lateran, a less-known title associated with the Papal States. This designation carried significant ecclesiastical weight, reflecting the intertwining of spiritual and temporal power in the papal domain. Despite its sacred connotations, the title's grandeur seems incongruous with the relatively modest responsibilities it entailed, contributing to its air of absurdity. Moving from the sacred to the secular, the Most Serene Republic's Doge was a title that epitomized the unique political landscape of Venice. The Doge, though cloaked in the trappings of power, wielded limited authority, a fact that underscored the Republic's commitment to collective governance. The title's serene and grandiose nature, juxtaposed with the Doge's actual role, paints a picture of the delicate balance between appearance and reality in Venetian politics. The dual nature of power is also evident in the titles of prince-bishops, rulers who embodied both spiritual and temporal authority within ecclesiastical principalities. These figures, who juggled the roles of religious leader and secular ruler, epitomized the paradox of wielding power that was both divine and earthly. Their existence blurred boundaries, reflecting a time when spiritual influence was a key pillar of political strength. The Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights offers another fascinating glimpse into the past, rooted in the mystique of chivalric orders. This title, steeped in martial honor and noble duty, evokes images of knights bound by sacred vows. Yet, as time passed, the title became an anachronism, a relic of a bygone era when the sword and cross marched hand in hand. The title King of the Wends, used by Scandinavian monarchs, further exemplifies how titles could outlast the societies they once described. The Wends, a Slavic people absorbed into larger European empires, no longer exist as a distinct group. Nonetheless, the title persisted, a curious echo of a past long vanished. In the Mediterranean, the Duke of the Archipelago presided over realms more imagined than real. While the title suggested dominion over sweeping seas and islands, its true scope was markedly limited, revealing the sometimes exaggerated territorial claims encapsulated within such titles. The Margrave of the Holy Empire, a military title indicating frontier guardians, HIP reflected the martial spirit of its holders. Though once a significant position within the empire, the title has since assumed a more inflated importance as the political landscapes it once navigated have shifted. The Elector of Saxony, integral to the electoral process of the Holy Roman Empire, wielded substantial influence in choosing the emperor. Yet, in a modern context, the notion of electors and their monarchic power seems increasingly out of step with contemporary democratic ideals, casting an absurd light on what was once a vital role. Gathering these varied stories together, one sees how these titles, each with its peculiar history and evolving significance, form a mosaic of Europe's royal past. They reveal the quirks, the ambitions, and the deeply entrenched traditions that have shaped history. These titles, with their blend of majesty and absurdity, remind us of the ever-changing dance of power and the human penchant for crafting stories of grandeur and folly alike. Royal titles, in their myriad forms, have always been more than mere labels. They are a reflection of the era and psyche of those who bore them. Each title carries with it the weight of history, a snapshot of societal structures, and sometimes the personal quirks of their creators. They are a testament to the power wielded by the few and the image they wish to project to the many. The Grand Panjandrum of England, for instance, is a title that straddles the line between reverence and ridicule. It's said to have originated from a whimsical tale concocted as a nonsensical test of memory, yet it found its place in the lexicon of English titles, a curious blend of pomp and jest. The historical context of such titles often provides insight into how they came to be, revealing a society's values or perhaps its ruler's inclination for humor. Similarly, the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire presents a labyrinthine conundrum. Here was a title grand in its proclamation, yet lacking true dominion over Rome itself. The Holy Roman Empire's sprawling, decentralized nature meant that the title often outstripped the tangible power it implied. This irony did not go unnoticed by contemporaries and has been a point of both historical curiosity and amusement. The Grand Panjandrum and the imperial designation both serve as windows into the minds of those who navigated and manipulated these complex webs of power and tradition. The King of all the Britons title further exemplifies the grandiosity often sought by monarchs. Both Scottish and English rulers relished in the sweeping authority this title suggested, though the reality was often less than comprehensive. As England and Scotland edged towards unification, the title became a focal point of aspiration, eventually standardizing as part of the royal lexicon. Today, the grandiosity it implies is tempered by a modern understanding of the period's limitations and ambitions. These titles are not just relics, they are narratives that have shaped and been shaped by the flow of history. In stark contrast stands the King of Jerusalem, a title born from the fervor of the Crusades, yet held more often in name than in reality. After the fall of Jerusalem to Crusaders, the title passed through hands far removed from actual rule. It became a symbol, a testament to a lost kingdom and a bygone era, carried by European monarchs who never set foot in the city they claimed to govern. This title, perhaps more than any other, illustrates the peculiar blend of aspiration and pretense that often characterizes royal nomenclature. The King of the Romans encapsulates another peculiarity born from the traditions of the Holy Roman Empire. This title, granted to the heir of the emperor, was more ceremonial than practical, an echo of the empire's ancient ties to Rome. Yet the title's existence highlights the ceremonial pomp that often accompanied European titles, their power paradoxically diminished by the grandeur of their claims. Such duality is a recurring theme in the narrative tapestry of titles, where the echoes of ancient Rome reverberate through medieval Europe. Not to be outdone in terms of grandeur, the Count of the Sacred Palace of Lateran stands as a vestige of the Papal State's complex hierarchy. This title, at once sacred and administrative, underscores the intertwining of religious and secular authorities in medieval Europe. It offers a glimpse into the ceremonial excess that often cloaked the pragmatic realities of governance, presenting an air of absurdity to modern sensibilities. Venice, a city famed for its opulence and maritime prowess, adopted the title of Doge for its leader. The most serene republic's Doge, despite the grandeur suggested by the title, wielded power that was often heavily circumscribed by the complexities of Venetian politics. Stories from the period reveal a figurehead ensnared in the Republic's elaborate governmental apparatus, a stark contrast to the majesty implied. The prince-bishops offer a fascinating study of titles that blur the line between spiritual and temporal power. In ecclesiastical principalities, These figures wielded both divine and worldly authority, a duality that allowed them to exert significant influence in medieval Europe. This paradox of being both prince and bishop encapsulates the often contradictory nature of historical power structures, where the sacred and the secular were inextricably linked. Similarly, the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights stands as a remnant of the chivalric orders that once dominated European martial culture. This title, laden with martial valor and noble aspiration, has become an anachronism in contemporary society, a reminder of a time when such orders held sway over vast territories and commanded armies. The King of the Wends, a title used by Scandinavian monarchs, offers another lens through which to view the evolution of royal titles. The Wends, a once formidable society, have disappeared from the map, yet their name lingers in the titles of monarchs long after their people faded into history. This echoes the curious persistence of certain titles, holding on to relevance even as their original context dissolves into obscurity. In the Mediterranean, the Duke of the Archipelago claimed dominion over a vast expanse of sea and islands, yet the reality was often quite the opposite. The title's grandiosity belied the limited control and influence that could be exerted across such a dispersed region, illustrating the sometimes exaggerated claims inherent in royal titling. The Margrave of the Holy Empire further highlights the importance of military prowess and territorial control in the assignment of titles. Margraves were tasked with defending the empire's frontiers, a role of significant prestige and responsibility. Anecdotes from history illuminate the lives of these figures, whose martial exploits and territorial ambitions were often celebrated. The Elector of Saxony, with its pivotal role in the Electoral College of the Holy Roman Empire, underscores the importance of political maneuvering in the creation of titles. The electoral title, a blend of ceremonial prestige and real political clout, offers an intriguing look at how titles could convey both honor and influence. Yet today, it echoes with a hint of absurdity in a world that values democratic processes over hereditary privilege. As we reflect on these titles, from the mundane to the magnificent, they reveal a tapestry of historical and cultural significance. They are relics of a time when power was often as much about perception as it was about reality, when who you were named could often overshadow what you actually controlled. These titles, with all their quirks and complexities, remind us of a Europe that was as diverse in its traditions as it was in its people, leaving behind a legacy that continues to captivate and amuse. It is a narrative that is both grand in its scope and deeply human in its folly. As we wander through the corridors of history, adorned with the echoes of regal proclamations and the rustle of silken robes, we find ourselves confronted with a tapestry of titles that both dazzle and bemuse. Within this patchwork of nobility, each title is a thread spun with the intentions of grandeur, power, and sometimes the most curious of human traits, humor. In the palaces of yore, a title was not just a name. It was an emblem of authority, a banner under which armies marched and treaties were penned. Yet, as time has softened the rigidity of many regal constructs, we've come to view these titles through a lens tinted with a touch of incredulity. Take, for instance, the grandiosity of the Grand Panjandrum of England, an honorific steeped in whimsical origins, dating back to the 18th century. Coined by Samuel Foote in an absurdist play, meant to poke fun at the ostentation of titles, it serves as a reminder of how satire has long been a companion to power. Despite its fictional inception, the title encapsulates the era's penchant for opulence and ceremony, mirroring a world in which the ridiculous could easily masquerade as the regal. This delight in the absurd extends further into the labyrinthine corridors of European titles with the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. An empire that was neither holy nor Roman, it spanned a complex quilt of territories, each patch governed by a ruler who might never set foot in Rome. The irony of such a title, grand yet misaligned with its geographical heart, speaks to the intricate dance of power and perception in medieval Europe. It becomes a historical footnote that invites a chuckle today, a nod to the peculiarities of imperial ambition. Equally bold, the King of all the Britons emerges from the mists of Scotland and England's tumultuous union. A title that sought unity under its sprawling wings, It reflects an era when monarchs endeavored to assert control over disparate lands through names alone. In modern times, such titles evoke images of pomp and circumstance, but it is the audacity of claiming dominion over all Britons that highlights the grandiosity that often accompanies royal declarations. Equally compelling is the plight of the king who never reigned, the nominal king of Jerusalem, whose lineage traces through the aftermath of the Crusades. Here, in this symbolic vestige of bygone conquests, the title endures as a testament to desires unfulfilled. The kings who bore this title carried with them the weight of lost kingdoms, ruling over lands that lived more vividly in legend than in reality. It is a narrative steeped in irony and pathos, revealing the chasm between title and tangible authority. In the vast tapestry of regal designations, the King of the Romans stands as a curious footnote, a title bestowed upon heirs apparent to the Holy Roman Emperor. Ceremonial and anticipatory, it was a title that heralded future reigns, yet it also carried an air of redundancy that today miss almost comedic. It reveals the elaborate, often convoluted rituals that formed the backbone of medieval political theater. As we step further into the realms of ecclesiastical titles, the Count of the Sacred Palace of Lateran emerges with its origins deeply rooted in the papal halls of power. An honorific that spoke to the governance of the Lateran palace, its perceived absurdity lies in the juxtaposition of sacred and secular duties, a balancing act performed on the precipice of reverence and routine. It reflects an epoch where divine and temporal powers were inextricably linked, and where titles added layers of complexity to the already intricate world of church politics. The Most Serene Republic's Doge of Venice presents yet another twist in this narrative of titles. The Doge, the symbolic head of a maritime republic, wielded limited actual power, but carried a title that suggested otherwise. Cloaked in the veneer of serenity and grandeur, the role of the Doge embodied the city-state's unique blend of commerce, diplomacy, and pageantry. It is a study in contrasts, where the opulence of the title belies the restrained reality of the role. In the ecclesiastical principalities of Europe, the prince-bishops reigned, wielding both spiritual and temporal authority. These figures stood at the intersection of faith and governance, their dual titles a testament to the complex power structures of their time. Within this paradox lies the enduring fascination with the multifaceted roles played by rulers who were both pious shepherds and political potentates. Their legacies, storied and contradictory, continue to intrigue as reminders of an intricate tapestry of church and state. The Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights conjures images of chivalric orders and noble quests, yet today stands as an anachronism, a vestige of medieval martial prowess. The title, steeped in the mystique of knightly brotherhoods, reflects an age where ideals of nobility were as celebrated as they were romanticized. It speaks to a time when titles carried the weight of both duty and legend, now transformed into historical curiosities that engage the imagination. Among the Scandinavian monarchs, the enigmatic King of the Wends finds its place. This title, harking back to a time when the Wends, a now defunct Slavic society, were significant players in the region, underscores the dynamic nature of power and identity. In its modern context, it stirs intrigue for a people whose influence has faded into the annals of history, leaving behind a title that echoes with the whispers of a forgotten past. The Duke of the Archipelago offers a fascinating glimpse into the Mediterranean's maritime dominion, a title that evokes images of distant shores and azure seas. Yet it is the exaggerated territorial claims embedded in such a designation that prompt reflection. Here lies an emblem of ambition that transcends the physical, where the expanse of one's rule stretches beyond the horizon of reason, offering a testament to human aspirations writ large. In the realm of military titles, the Margrave of the Holy Empire draws upon the martial connotations of border guardians. These figures, tasked with the defense of frontier lands, bore titles that suggested vast influence and responsibility. The tales of notable margraves, woven with feats and follies, highlight the enduring allure of titles that speak to bravery and honor, now viewed with a nostalgic lens that tempers their once formidable stature. Turning to the Elector of Saxony, we encounter a title rich with electoral privilege within the Holy Roman Empire. The electors, wielding significant political sway, were pivotal in the selection of emperors, their influence a cornerstone of the empire's governance. Yet in today's democratic ethos, the notion of electoral power vested in a singular title appears almost absurd, a relic from a world where power was personal and politics profoundly monarchical. Thus, as we reach the conclusion of our journey through these corridors of antiquity, we are left contemplating the myriad ways in which titles have shaped and been shaped by the currents of history. From the sublime to the ridiculous, these appellations offer a mirror to the past, reflecting the quirks and complexities of a Europe that thrived on both ceremony and satire. It is a tale woven with the golden threads of ambition, the silver strands of power, and the rich hues of human folly, painting a portrait that endures beyond the pages of history. Amidst the intricacies of European history, where titles often served as both badges of authority and relics of whimsy, emerges the curious figure of the Grand Panjandrum of England. This title, wrapped in layers of humor and historical oddity, was never officially bestowed by any reigning monarch, yet it holds a peculiar place in the annals of English satire. The term Panjandrum itself originates from a nonsensical stanza penned by Samuel Foote, an 18th-century playwright known for his wit and parody. Foote's jibe at the pomposity of self-important figures led to the creation of this fictitious title, which soon became a byword for grandiosity without substance. In an era where titles held the power to define realms and establish legacies, the Grand Panjandrum stood as a reminder of the absurdity that often accompanies human endeavors. Stories abound of how this whimsical title was jestingly used to mock those who, while lacking genuine authority, carried themselves with undue self-importance. It was a gentle, yet pointed critique of a society that sometimes took itself a little too seriously, where a mere whim could transform into a tradition that outlived its creator. As the laughter of Foote's audiences echoed through the halls of history, one might ponder the transition from the comedic to the historical. Just as the Holy Roman Empire, with its grandiose title that bore no real connection to Rome itself, illustrates the ironies of power and perception. The empire, a patchwork of territories with a name more splendid than its true reach, presents a fascinating juxtaposition to the satirical creation of the Grand Panjandrum. The emperor wielded a title that promised dominion over Rome, yet the city remained a distant dream, a jewel not truly in their crown. This disconnect between title and territory underscores the frequent divergence between names and the realities they claim to encompass. Similarly, the tale of the King of all the Britons weaves its narrative through the mists of history, where Scottish and English monarchs embraced a title that spoke to aspirations of unity and dominion. Over time, this grand appellation became standardized, offering a glimpse into the evolving tapestry of a kingdom striving for cohesion. Yet its grandeur often belied the fractious nature of its reality, much like the whimsical satire of a Grand Panjandrum who wielded influence through humor rather than decree. Then we journey to the dusty trails of the Crusades, where the title of the King of Jerusalem echoes across the sands, held by monarchs who never graced its throne. A title born of conquest, yet sustained in absence, it stands as a monument to the triumph of symbol over substance. The King of Jerusalem's legacy is a testament to the enduring power of names, even when they cling to lands beyond their grasp, a reflection, perhaps, of the Grand Panjandrum's own journey from jest to legend. The thread of ceremonial titles continues with the King of the Romans, a designation bestowed upon the heir of the Holy Roman Emperor. It was a title steeped in tradition, but often lacking in immediate power or territory. This title was an aspirational promise, a foreshadowing of future authority that, much like the Grand Panjandrum, existed more in the ideal than in concrete reality. Its ceremonial significance reminds us of the many layers beneath the surface of royal nomenclature, where titles convey not just power, but also hopes, dreams, and sometimes farcical ambitions. In the heart of the Papal States, one finds the Count of the Sacred Palace of Lateran, another title that, like the Grand Panjandrum, might evoke a chuckle of incredulity today. The title's holder once wielded significant responsibilities within the spiritual domain, yet the sacred and the humorous often intertwine. revealing the delicate balance between reverence and ridicule that defines so many historical titles. From the sacred to the serene, the Doge of Venice ruled over a republic with a title rich in historical anecdotes and limited authority. The grandeur of the title belied the true power held by the Doge, who operated within the constraints of Venice's unique political structure. Like the Grand Panjandrum, the Doge's title was imbued with a sense of regalness that contrasted with a reality far less commanding. The serene republic, with its majestic traditions, thus parallels the playful spirit that brought the Panjandrum to life. In the realm of paradox, the prince-bishops present a fascinating case of duality, wielding both secular and ecclesiastical power. These figures embodied the complexity of titles that straddle different worlds, just as the Grand Panjandrum crossed the boundaries of satire and history. Their influence in the principalities they governed highlights the multifaceted nature of titles, serving both as a bridge and a barrier between the spiritual and the temporal. The chivalric orders bring us to the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights, whose title conjures images of martial prowess and noble valor. While far removed from the light-heartedness of the Grand Panjandrum, this title similarly illustrates the power of names to evoke imagery and idealism that transcend their time, often becoming anachronisms in the modern world. In the Scandinavian north, the King of the Wends was a title borne by monarchs whose dominion extended over a now-vanished people. The Wends, like the mythical Panjandrum, remind us of societies and titles that endure more in legend than in tangible form. The peculiar nature of this title, outdated yet fascinating, reflects the enduring allure of royal nomenclature, where what was once significant can become a curious footnote in history. Further south, the Duke of the Archipelago presents another intriguing case, its title suggesting vast territories that, in reality, were more limited in scope. The exaggeration in its claim parallels the playful exaggerations of the Panjandrum, where titles take on lives of their own, often detached from the lands they purport to command. Finally, the Margrave of the Holy Empire evokes the military might of border lords defending the empire's fringe. The tales of these margraves, steeped in martial legacy, reflect the historical importance of titles that conveyed not just status but duty. Yet, like the mythical Grand Panjandrum, these titles often carry a weight of tradition that can seem inflated to modern eyes. As we turn to the Elector of Saxony, the significance of the title within the Holy Roman Empire's electoral system emerges. It highlights the political gamesmanship of the time, where titles were tools of influence and leverage. In today's democratic landscape, the weight and pageantry of these titles might seem almost as absurd as the playful creation of a Grand Panjandrum, highlighting how context changes the perception of power. The journey through these titles, from the humorous to the hallowed, offers a unique lens into the cultures that shaped them. They reveal a Europe where ceremony walked hand in hand with satire, where ambition was immortalized in names both grand and absurd. These titles, ridiculous to some, serve as a testament to the human penchant for complexity, the weaving of humor and history into the fabric of our past, a past that, through its quirks and idiosyncrasies, continues to captivate and inspire. As we delve deeper into the labyrinth of royal titles, we find ourselves in England, where the whimsical title of the Grand Panjandrum emerges like a character from a Lewis Carroll novel. This title, with its origins shrouded in mystery, hints at a time when language itself was a canvas for both jest and pomp. The term Panjandrum was coined by playwright Samuel Foote in the 18th century, meant to parody grandiloquent titles and the people who bore them. It was never an official title, yet it encapsulated the spirit of a society both enamored with and skeptical of authority. Imagine, if you will, a satirical nod to the pompousness of the aristocracy, a title that tickled the fancy of anyone who dared to question the status quo. As with so many things, the Holy Roman Empire presents another case where title and reality often diverged. The Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, ironically enough, had little control over Rome itself, a situation that would raise eyebrows even today. This title, grandiose in its promise, was more symbolic than it was a reflection of actual power. The empire, a complex patchwork of principalities, city-states, and territories, was a testament to the political acrobatics required to keep it together. It was a title that promised the world, but delivered a realm of intricacies, an echo of ambition that, to contemporary eyes, seems almost farcical in its grandeur. The complexity only grows when we examine the title of King of all the Britons, a designation that attempted to unify the lands and peoples of the British Isles under a single crown. This title, used by Scottish and English monarchs alike, was an aspirational statement in a time of division. It spoke to a desire for unification that would only be realized centuries later. To modern sensibilities, it rings with a touch of hubris, a reminder of the grand dreams that often accompany power. Transitioning from the tangible to the symbolic, we arrive at the title of the King of Jerusalem, held by many who never set foot in the city itself. Emerging from the Crusades, this title was a relic of a bygone era, a badge of honor rather than a position of governance. Its holders, ranging from European nobility to Napoleon himself, saw it as a torchbearer of Crusader legacy, a futile yet fascinating chapter in the annals of chivalry. To bear this title was to acknowledge a kingdom that existed more in the hearts of its claimants than in the sands of the Levant. Continuing through this tapestry, we find the King of the Romans, a title that signified the Holy Roman Emperor's designated successor. It was a title heavy with the promise of future rule, yet light in its contemporary impact, a ceremonial gesture that reflected the empire's complex electoral practices. It embodied the paradox of power in medieval Europe, where titles were often more about potential than actualized authority. The ecclesiastical nature of power emerges with the Count of the Sacred Palace of Lateran, a title with roots in the Papal States. This position, steeped in religious and administrative duties, encapsulated the often overlapping realms of the sacred and the secular. The modern eye might view it as an oddity, a relic of a time when church and state were indistinguishable, when titles were as much about divine sanction as they were about temporal power. In Venice, the Doge of the Most Serene Republic presents another intriguing case, a title that conjured images of splendor and authority, yet in reality, the Doge's power was carefully circumscribed by the Venetian aristocracy. It was a role both revered and limited, a reminder of how appearances could be deceiving. The grandeur of the title belied the intricate checks and balances that defined Venetian politics, a dance of influence that was as serene as it was strategic. The duality of ecclesiastical and secular power is further exemplified in the figure of the Prince Bishop, a title that straddled the realms of church and state. These individuals wielded influence both as religious leaders and secular lords, a dual role that was as paradoxical as it was powerful. In a landscape dominated by competing interests, the Prince Bishop was a unique blend of faith and force, a testament to the multifaceted nature of medieval governance. Just as intriguing is the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights, a title rooted in the martial and monastic traditions of chivalric orders. It was a role that commanded respect, a blend of knightly valor and religious devotion. In today's world, it seems anachronistic, yet it speaks to a time when such roles were vital to the social and military fabric of Europe. The Scandinavian title of the King of the Wends offers a glimpse into a forgotten people, the Wends being a Slavic group subsumed by history. This title, retained by Scandinavian monarchs long after the Wends themselves had faded from prominence, is a reminder of how history can be both preserved and forgotten in the annals of power. It is a title that reflects the ebb and flow of nations, a curious relic of a bygone era. In the Mediterranean, the Duke of the Archipelago claimed a dominion that was more air than land, a title that spoke to the far-reaching, yet often intangible nature of power. It was a title that exaggerated the scope of one's domain, a terrestrial claim on the vastness of the sea, epitomizing the grandiosity that titles so often sought to convey. The Margrave of the Holy Empire, with its military connotations, brings to mind stories of border defense and regional power. The Margraves were guardians of the empire's edges, their titles a testament to the martial responsibilities that came with noble rank. Yet, in today's context, such a title might seem overblown, an echo of a time when defense and nobility were intrinsically linked. Finally, the Elector of Saxony, a title pivotal to the electoral mechanism of the Holy Roman Empire, underscores the complex dance of influence and governance. The electors wielded significant power, their roles emblematic of the balancing act that was medieval politics. To a modern observer, the very concept of electoral titles seems almost comedic, a reflection of how democracy has evolved. These titles, with their layers of meaning and historical significance, offer a window into a Europe where the past was as richly woven as any tapestry. They speak to our fascination with the intersection of power, pageantry, and history, a fascination that continues to draw us into the stories of those who once bore these names. As we consider these titles, we are reminded of the cultural and historical context that shaped them, reflecting the quirks and complexities of an era that, despite its distance, remains ever intriguing. Continue. The fabric of history is woven with threads of grandeur and absurdity, and there is no better illustration of this than in the peculiar royal titles that have emerged over centuries. Among these, the Grand Panjandrum of England stands out as a particularly whimsical example. This title, believed to have been coined in jest by the 18th century writer Samuel Foote, was intended to satirize the inflated sense of importance often associated with official titles. Foote's invention was part of a nonsense poem, a playful jab at the pomposity of his day. Over time, the phrase Grand Panjandrum took on a life of its own, becoming a humorous reference to any self-important officialdom. Imagine, if you will, a courtier strutting with the swagger that such a grand-sounding title might imply, only to find it has all the substance of a wisp of smoke. The charm of this title lies in its clever mockery, reminding us that not all that is gold glitters with genuine authority. Similarly, within the grand tapestry of European monarchies, the title Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire presents a curious paradox. This empire, famously described as neither holy, nor Roman, nor an empire, was a complex patchwork of territories bound more by tradition and ceremony than by centralized control. The title carried with it an imposing aura, yet the ironic truth was the emperor often wielded little direct power over Rome itself. This dissonance between title and reality paints a vivid picture of medieval Europe's often chaotic power dynamics, where titles were as much about perception as they were about dominion. Moving north, the title King of all the Britons once resonated through the halls of both Scottish and English monarchs. At its core was a grand claim to rule over a united Britain, a political concept that would not truly solidify until much later. The title's grandeur lies in its aspirational tone, a monarch's dream of unifying disparate lands under one crown. In modern times, the notion of a singular king of all the Britons evokes both the audacity and the eventual reality of this historic ambition. The stories of these titles serve as a reminder of the aspirational and often ceremonial nature of royal nomenclature. The King of Jerusalem stands as a poignant example of such ceremonial titles. Born from the fervor of the Crusades, this title was held by many a king who never set foot in the Holy City. It became a potent symbol of Christian Europe's longing to reclaim a sacred place, a title passed down more as a testament to enduring hope than as a reflection of actual sovereignty. In a similar vein, the title King of the Romans was imbued with a sense of future promise. It was a title bestowed upon the successor to the Holy Roman Emperor, a nominal assurance of continuity for an empire struggling to maintain its coherence. This title carried with it the weight of tradition, yet in hindsight it seems almost comedic in its redundancy, a regal placehold, for an emperor yet to be. The Count of the Sacred Palace of Lateran offers a glimpse into the ecclesiastical hierarchy within the Papal States, where sacred and temporal powers often blurred. This title, while rich in religious significance, now appears quaintly anachronistic, a vestige of a time when the Church's influence extended far beyond its spiritual domain. The ceremonial pomp surrounding such a role underscores the broader theatricality of medieval governance. A journey to Venice brings us to the Doge of the Most Serene Republic, a title steeped in the opulence of the Venetian state. Despite its grandeur, the Doge's power was carefully curtailed by the intricate checks and balances of Venetian politics. This juxtaposition of title and actual authority encapsulates the subtle dance of power in one of history's most fascinating republics, where appearance and reality often diverged. In the realm of ecclesiastical principalities, the prince-bishop represents a unique fusion of secular and spiritual power. These figures wielded influence both as rulers of their territories and as senior church officials, embodying a duality that is fascinatingly paradoxical. Such titles reflect the medieval synthesis of divine and worldly power, a dynamic that shaped much of European history. Steering into the martial domain, the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights brings to mind the chivalric orders and their storied past. This title, with its echoes of knighthood and conquest, speaks to a time when religious and military goals were intertwined. Yet today, it stands as a romantic relic, its martial connotations softened by centuries of peace. Turning north once more, we encounter the title King of the Wends, a testament to the fluidity of medieval borders. The Wends were a Slavic people whose identity has long since faded, yet their name persists in the annals of Scandinavian royalty. This title, once a marker of conquest, now serves as a reminder of the ever-changing landscape of European ethnic and national identities. The Duke of the Archipelago, with its grandiose claim, evokes images of vast dominion over scattered isles. In reality, it was often a title with more symbolic than practical significance, reflecting the exaggerated territorial ambitions of its holders. This serves as yet another example of the contrast between the ostentatious titles and the realities they represented. The Margrave of the Holy Empire adds a military flair to our collection, originally designating a frontier commander tasked with defending the empire's borders. Over time, the title's martial significance gave way to a more ceremonial role, illustrating the evolution of such titles from practical necessity to historical curiosity. In the complex electoral system of the Holy Roman Empire, the Elector of Saxony played a crucial role in choosing the emperor. This title, while signaling significant political influence, now seems absurd in a world where such hereditary power holds little sway. It highlights the fascinating transition from medieval politics to modern democracy, where the power dynamics once encapsulated in these titles have profoundly shifted. Reflecting on these titles, we see the ever-present interplay between power, legacy, and the human penchant for pageantry. They offer a window into the minds of those who once wielded them, as well as the societies that revered them. As we step back, we appreciate not only their historical significance, but also the curious charm of their inherent absurdity, a testament to the rich tapestry of European history. The Grand Panjandrum of England, a title that might sound like it belongs more in a fairy tale than in historical records, indeed reflects the whimsical nature of royal nomenclature. Rooted in the satirical work of the 18th-century playwright Samuel Foote, it was never an official title, but rather a playful jab at the pomp and circumstance of the time. Its origins lie in Foote's satirical play, where the term was coined to mock the grandeur and self-importance associated with certain roles in society. Though not a genuine royal title, its existence in popular culture serves as a humorous reminder of how language can be used to critique authority. In today's world, where transparency and relatability are cherished values, the very idea of a grand panjandrum seems outlandishly pompous, a caricature of the past's seriousness. Shifting to the realm of the Holy Roman Empire, a title that teases the imagination is the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, a position that, paradoxically, did not entail control over Rome itself. The empire's complex patchwork of territories stretched far beyond the city, revealing a peculiar irony, an emperor without an empire's namesake. This title reflects the convoluted political landscape of medieval Europe, where power was as much about influence and alliances as it was about territorial control. In modern eyes, the title can seem both grandiose and misleading, an emblem of a time when titles were crafted as much for their symbolic resonance as for their practical authority. The King of all the Britons, used at various times by monarchs of Scotland and England, epitomizes the grand declarations of dominion in a region known for its fragmented history. This title aimed to project a unified image of power across the British Isles, despite the reality of political divisions and varying allegiances. The eventual standardization of this title into more familiar forms reflects the evolution towards a more centralized understanding of sovereignty. Today, such a title may seem overly ambitious to the point of absurdity, especially when viewed against the backdrop of the United Kingdom's rich tapestry of regional identities and devolved governments. Another intriguing title is that of the King of Jerusalem, a throne devoid of a physical kingdom, retained as a legacy of the Crusades. Originally a tangible claim during the tumultuous times of medieval crusading efforts, it eventually morphed into a purely symbolic accolade. Monarchs and nobility in Europe carried this title long after the Crusader states had dissolved, more as a testament to historical aspirations than actual governance. This dissonance between name and reality highlights the enduring human fascination with legacy, an echo of past glories clinging to present identities. Similarly symbolic is the King of the Romans, a precursor title for the Holy Roman Emperor's heir apparent. This designation was more about ceremony and expectation, preparing the heir for eventual rule. The title carried with it the weight of tradition and the continuity of imperial aspirations, yet it also bore an element of redundancy. In today's context, where such hereditary assumptions of power are mostly obsolete, the title seems to carry a comedic echo of its past, a reminder of the lineage-focused politics of bygone eras. We turn now to the Count of the Sacred Palace of Lateran, a title that emerged within the intricate hierarchy of the Papal States. This role, tied closely to the administration of the Lateran Palace, symbolized a blend of religious and secular duties that characterized the papal court. The title's perceived absurdity stems from its grandiose nature, contrasted against the relatively mundane responsibilities it entailed. In contemporary terms, it serves as a curious relic of the period when church and state were deeply enmeshed, offering a glimpse into the ceremonial excesses that once defined ecclesiastical power. The Doge of Venice, often adorned with the title of the most serene republic's Doge, presents an intriguing case of titular grandeur matched by limited power. This role, although illustrious in name, was largely ceremonial, with real authority carefully distributed among Venice's governing bodies. The contrast between the title's dignified veneer and its actual political constraints underscores the nuanced balance of power that characterized Venice, a testament to the city-state's sophisticated governance. From today's perspective, the title highlights the irony of appearances versus reality, a theme recurrent in the annals of history. In the unique duality of the Prince-Bishop, we find a title that encapsulated the blending of temporal and spiritual authority. These ecclesiastical principalities wielded significant influence in the Holy Roman Empire, with their holders navigating the delicate interplay between their dual roles. This paradoxical title illustrates the historical confluence of church and state, a dynamic that shaped European politics for centuries. In the modern era, where the separation of powers is a foundational principle, the title strikes a note of bemusement, a reflection of the transformative journey from medieval to contemporary governance. The title of Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights carries with it the echoes of medieval chivalry and military order. Once a position of significant martial and political clout, it now serves more as a historical curiosity, an anachronism in a world that has moved beyond the feudal structures it once embodied. This title, with its noble and combative connotations, invites reflection on how far society has evolved from those knightly days, its romantic yet archaic allure preserved in the annals of history. Among the Scandinavian monarchs, the title of King of the Wends offers a curious glimpse into a bygone era. The Wends, a Slavic people long absorbed into surrounding cultures, remain in name only through this vestigial title. Its continued deusage by Danish and Swedish royalty hints at historical claims and conquests that have since faded into obscurity. To contemporary observers, the title seems both nostalgic and anachronistic, a connection to peoples and territories long since integrated into modern states. Venturing to the Mediterranean, we encounter the Duke of the Archipelago, a title that promises vast dominion yet pertains to a scattering of islands. This grandiose label belies the limited scope of its authority, a poignant illustration of the imaginative reach of titular ambition. Today, the title's exaggerated claim stands as a humorous reminder of how borders and territories, once fiercely contested, have been transformed by time into mere historical footnotes. In the intricate structure of the Holy Roman Empire, Titles like the Margrave of the Holy Empire carried significant military connotations. Often tasked with defending frontier regions, margraves wielded considerable power and influence. However, as the political landscape evolved, these titles began to lose their martial relevance, leaving behind an aura of inflated importance. In our democratic age, the title's martial origins contrast sharply with the peaceful coexistence that marks contemporary Europe. Finally, the Elector of Saxony, one of the key figures in the Holy Roman Empire's electoral system, illustrates the shifting sands of political power. Electors held significant sway in choosing the emperor, a role that underscored the decentralized nature of the empire. Yet when viewed through the lens of modern democracy, this title and its associated privileges seem archaic, a relic of a time when political influence was vested in a select few rather than the populace at large. In reflecting on these titles, we are reminded of the cultural and historical context that shaped them. They encapsulate the quirks and complexities of European history, offering a window into the values and aspirations of their times. As we conclude this journey through the annals of royal nomenclature, we appreciate the curious charm and historical significance of these titles, a testament to the rich tapestry of Europe's past. And so, the pages of history turn to a figure often veiled in irony, the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, grand in title, yet curiously detached from the city of Rome itself. This title, a complex tapestry woven over centuries, stands as a beacon of medieval political intrigue and ambition. The Holy Roman Empire, a sprawling collection of territories in Central Europe, was an entity both formidable and fragmented, a labyrinth of power where the emperor's authority was more nominal than absolute, his reach vast but his grip tenuous. The empire's structure was an enigma, a mosaic of duchies, principalities, and bishoprics, all pledging allegiance to a sovereign who bore the weighty title of emperor. Yet the irony that shadows this title is its geographical misalignment with the actual city of Rome. While the emperor ruled over lands stretching from the North Sea to the Italian peninsula, his dominion did not extend over the ancient heart of the Roman world. Rome, that eternal city, lay beyond his direct control, often under the sway of the papal states, whose own ambitions frequently clashed with those of the secular empire. This curious juxtaposition of title and reality created an enduring legacy of irony, compelling contemporaries and historians alike to ponder the peculiarities of power without possession. Indeed, the emperor's claim was an echo of a past imperial greatness, a title that resonated with the echoes of Caesar and Augustus, yet was divorced from the physical seat of Roman power. It was this disconnect that painted the title with an air of the ridiculous, a grand proclamation that seemed more a vestige of bygone glories than a reflection of present truths. The significance of this title in shaping perceptions cannot be overstated. To medieval and Renaissance minds, titles were not mere labels, but embodiments of divine right and earthly authority. The Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire was seen as God's vicar on earth, a temporal ruler entrusted with maintaining the order of Christendom. Yet the absence of Rome from his dominion posed an inherent contradiction, one that underscored the fragmented nature of his empire, and perhaps mirrored the very divisions that characterized European polity at the time. As we delve into the minds of those who lived under his reign, we find a myriad of responses to this title. Some saw it as an inevitable consequence of Europe's political map, others as a humorous quirk in the relentless march of history. In courtly whispers and scholarly writings, this title became a subject of jest and contemplation, a reminder of the limits of imperial reach and the enduring allure of Rome. In a broader sense, this dissonance between title and territory shaped the legacy of the Holy Roman Empire, a realm whose name promised more than it could deliver, yet whose influence was undeniable. The emperor, despite his lack of control over Rome, wielded authority through a delicate balance of allegiances, his power derived not from direct rule, but from the consensus of a multitude of vassals. This system of governance, intricate and precarious, was both the empire's strength and its weakness, a reflection of the political realities of the time. Reflecting on this title today, we recognize the complexity of the Holy Roman Empire's legacy, one that continues to intrigue and inspire curiosity. The title of emperor, divorced from Rome, invites us to consider the nuances of history, where the lines between power and symbolism blur. It serves as a reminder that titles, no matter how grand, are often but the surface of deeper political currents and historical narratives. As we leave behind the realms governed by this peculiar emperor, our journey through royal titles continues, leading us to the lands of the Britons, where monarchs once vied for the lofty title of King of all the Britons. Here, the past echoes with the ambitions of Scottish and English rulers, each seeking to assert their dominion over the islands and weave a narrative of unity and power. The title itself, grand in its proclamation, reflects the turbulent history of the British Isles, a landscape marked by conflict and consolidation, where power was as much a matter of perception as it was of fact. To declare oneself king of all the Britons was to lay claim to a vision of ruling over the entirety of the island, a vision that was as much aspirational as it was descriptive. This title, a precursor to the eventual unification under a single crown, speaks to the enduring allure of sovereignty and the complexities of national identity. In the modern era, this title's grandiosity often invites reflection on the nature of monarchy itself, where the power of symbols often transcends the practicalities of governance. It reminds us of the ever-evolving dance between reality and representation, a dance that has played out across the ages in courts and castles, in the hearts and minds of subjects and sovereigns alike. With each title we explore, we peel back layers of history, uncovering the stories that define and defy our understanding of the past. Each name, each honorific, is a portal into the world views and aspirations of those who bore them, a testament to the rich tapestry of human ambition and the myriad ways it has been expressed across the centuries. As our narrative unfolds, we find ourselves drawn into the tales of those who held titles in name alone, such as the King of Jerusalem, a title echoing the fervor of the Crusades and the dreams of a kingdom that never truly was. This title, held by monarchs who never set foot in the Holy Land, underscores the potent symbolism of names and the enduring power of distant lands to captivate the imagination. In the end, these royal titles, whether they resonate with irony, grandeur, or absurdity, offer a glimpse into the heart of history's grand theater, where the players change but the themes remain eternal. They remind us that the stories of the past are as alive as the pages of a well-read book, inviting us to explore, question, and discover anew, weaving our own narratives into the fabric of time. The stage of history where the Holy Roman Empire unfurled its banners was an intricate mosaic of territories, each with its own ruler, customs, and ambitions. This complex entity, which Voltaire famously quipped, was neither holy, nor Roman, nor an empire, defies simple definition. At its heart was the emperor, a figurehead whose coronation was blessed by the Pope, suggesting a divine right that stretched across Europe. Yet, the emperor's actual dominion over Rome was often more aspirational than real, a peculiar irony embedded within the very title of Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, but not of Rome. This paradox only deepened as layers of political allegiance and land ownership were woven into a tapestry that was more patchwork than cohesive rule. The labyrinthine structure of the empire was a testament to medieval European politics. It was a confederation of kingdoms, duchies, principalities, and free imperial cities, each with its own lords who pledged allegiance to the emperor, but often in name only. Power ebbed and flowed with the tides of alliances and marriages, treaties and inheritances. The title of emperor suggested a unity that was more fictitious than factual, a ceremonial relic that today seems almost humorous in its outsized claims. Yet, for contemporary rulers and subjects, it was a symbol of the enduring struggle to forge identity and authority in a fragmented world. Drifting from these imperial illusions, the grandeur of the title, King of all the Britons, offers its own brand of historical drama. This title, once employed by both Scottish and English monarchs, sought to assert dominance over the entirety of the British Isles. At a time when power was as much about perception as it was about reality, the grandiosity of claiming to rule all the Britons was as much about uniting disparate lands under a single crown as it was about sending a message of strength to domestic and foreign rivals alike. The eventual merging of crowns and the standardization of titles might have smoothed out regional tensions, yet the echoes of its grand claim linger, a whisper of imperial ambition that shaped the course of British history. In stark contrast, the title, "The King Who Never Reigned, the King of Jerusalem," serves as a poignant reminder of the ephemeral nature of power and possession. A relic of the Crusades, the title was claimed by European monarchs long after the Christian kingdoms in the Holy Land had fallen. It became a symbolic relic, a testament to lost causes and distant dreams, held by those who never set foot in Jerusalem. For many, it was less about the actual governance of a city, and more about the prestige and religious significance it conferred. Today, it stands as a curious footnote in the chronicles of history, a reminder that sometimes titles are woven more from the fabric of dreams and aspirations than from tangible rule. Parallel to these royal musings, the title, "The King of the Romans," reveals the intricate dance of succession and ceremony within the Holy Roman Empire. It referred to the heir apparent to the imperial throne, a designation that carried with it a blend of anticipation and inevitability. The king would rule in tandem with the emperor, his title more a promise of future power than an actual seat of authority. Today the notion seems almost redundant, a formality that adds layers of complexity to an already convoluted political system. Yet, this ceremonial designation was a crucial part of the imperial machinery, symbolizing continuity and the endurance of an institution that, while unwieldy, persisted for centuries. Diving deeper into the ecclesiastical realm of titles, the Count of the Sacred Palace of Lateran provides a window into the unique world of the Papal States. Rooted in the heart of Rome, this title was less about territorial control and more about proximity to the papal seat of power. The Count's responsibilities were steeped in the ceremonial, reflecting the deeply intertwined nature of politics and religion during the period. While the title might seem absurd in its grandeur today, at the time it was imbued with the power of the Church, a force as formidable as any secular ruler's dominion. In contrast, the most serene republic's Doge of Venice evokes images of opulence and intrigue. The Doge, though cloaked in the grandeur of his title, wielded limited actual power. Elected by the Venetian nobility, he served more as a figurehead than a sovereign ruler. Despite the title's connotations of majesty, the Doge's role was heavily circumscribed by the intricate checks and balances of the Venetian government. Here, the contrast between the title's implications and the practical limitations of the Doge's authority exemplifies the delicate balance of power that characterized much of European history. Turning to the peculiar figure of the prince who was also a bishop, Prince Bishops, we find a fascinating intersection of spiritual and temporal authority. In ecclesiastical principalities, these dual figures governed both the soul and the soil. Prince bishops held sway over lands while simultaneously serving as spiritual leaders, a duality that underscores the complex relationships between church and state. Notable examples like those in Mainz and Cologne wielded significant political influence, a testament to the multifaceted nature of power in medieval Europe. This dual title, with its inherent paradox, opens a window into a world where religious and secular roles were deeply entwined. The martial echoes of history resound in the title, the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights, rooted in the chivalric orders of the Crusades. The Grand Master led a brotherhood of knights committed to both military conquest and pious devotion. Charged with defending Christendom's eastern frontiers, the title invokes images of valor and noble purpose. Today it may seem an anachronism, yet its legacy endures in the cultural memory of knights and noble deeds, a testament to the enduring allure of chivalry. Exploring further north, the title, the King of the Wends, reflects the complex tapestry of Scandinavian monarchies. The Wends were a Slavic people whose lands were gradually absorbed by expanding Scandinavian kingdoms. The title, retained by Swedish, Danish, and Norwegian monarchs, became a historical curiosity, a vestige of conquests past and peoples assimilated. In modern times, the title seems a peculiar relic, evoking a world where royal power was asserted through the appropriation of ancient tribes and territories. The Duke who ruled over Ayr, Duke of the Archipelago, invites us to consider the poetic license of titles. Within the Mediterranean's azure expanse, this title suggested dominion over the island's scattered jewels. Yet, in reality, the domain was more conceptual than concrete, leading to an exaggerated sense of territorial claim. The title embodies the romantic ideal of rulership over distant lands, an echo of the age of exploration and expansion. Finally, the title, the Margrave of the Holy Empire, serves as a reminder of the military origins of many titles. Margraves were frontier lords tasked with defending the empire's borders. Their title carried martial connotations, yet over time, the practical military role diminished, leaving an inflated sense of importance. As with many titles, its evolution reflects the shifting sands of political necessity and tradition. As we weave through the corridors of time, the Elector of Saxony exemplifies the intricate electoral system of the Holy Roman Empire. Electors held the power to choose the emperor, an immense responsibility woven into the empire's fabric. Yet today, in our democratic age, the notion of electors selecting a sovereign seems both quaint and curious, a reminder of how concepts of governance have evolved. In reflecting on these titles, we glimpse the cultural and historical context that shaped them, revealing the quirks and complexities of European history. As we close this journey through the annals of regal absurdity, we see how titles, whether grandiose or ridiculous, provide a mirror to the past, echoing the intricate dance of power, identity, and tradition that continues to resonate through time. The Holy Roman Empire, a sprawling and complex entity, presents one of the most ironic narratives in the annals of monarchical titles. The Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, a grand designation that intriguingly did not guarantee dominion over Rome itself. This peculiarity stems from the empire's unique structure, a conglomerate of territories that, despite its name, was neither holy, Roman, nor truly an empire in the traditional sense. Its claim to holiness was more a nod to the Church's approval than any spiritual supremacy. Its Roman aspect was largely nominal, harking back to an era long past, a claim more symbolic than tangible. Thus, the title wove a tapestry of contradictions, binding together regions that often operated with a level of autonomy that belied the centralized authority suggested by such imperial grandiosity. The irony becomes palpable when one considers the lack of consistent control over the city of Rome itself. Rome, the heart of an empire that once spanned continents, remained largely outside the emperor's grasp, often under the sway of the papacy or local powers that jealously guarded their autonomy. This disconnect between title and power illustrates the often ceremonial nature of such designations, where the grandeur of a name belied the practicalities of governance and influence. The emperor's reach fluctuated over the centuries, ebbing and flowing with the tides of political alliances, military campaigns, and the ever-shifting landscape of European power dynamics. Thus, the emperor, cloaked in the regalia of imperial might, could at times find himself more a figurehead than a sovereign of the Roman lands. This ironic disjunction between title and reality serves as a poignant reminder of the complexities and contradictions inherent in the fabric of medieval and early modern European politics. It forces us to ponder how such titles, steeped in history and prestige, could simultaneously encapsulate power and impotence. The Holy Roman Emperor's predicament was not unique, as many titles throughout history have carried with them the weight of expectations unmet by reality. The King of all the Britons faced a similar conundrum. While the title suggested a unified control over the British Isles, it was more aspirational than factual for much of history. The idea of a singular ruler over England, Scotland, and the other territories was fraught with contention and conflict, the reality of political fragmentation often overshadowing the ideal of unification. Yet these titles were not merely empty words. They served crucial roles in the narratives crafted by monarchs to project authority and legitimacy. The King of all the Britons was emblematic of a desire for dominion that reached beyond immediate borders, a statement of intent that would eventually pave the way for the United Kingdom. In a similar vein, the King of Jerusalem, a title borne by European nobility long after the Crusades had ended, symbolizes the enduring allure of the Holy Land and the Christian monarchs' claim to what they saw as their rightful heritage. While the physical kingdom was lost to history, the title lived on as a vestige of past glories, a reminder of the ambitions and failures of the crusading era. Holding this title became more about prestige than power, an artifact of history rather than a declaration of actual rule. The King of the Romans, too, offers a fascinating insight into the ceremonial complexities of the Holy Roman Empire. This title, meant for the heir apparent of the emperor, encapsulated the grand ceremonial traditions of the empire. While it suggested an impending reign, the actual path to power was often circuitous, entangled in the web of politics and papal influence. The title's redundancy in today's context highlights the shift from hereditary and ceremonial claims to meritocratic and democratic ideals. Titles like these, which once signified unquestionable authority, now echo with a note of irony, their grandeur undermined by the passage of time and the evolution of societal structures. And what of the Count of the Sacred Palace of Lateran? Within the Papal States, this title was more than a mere honorific. It represented a position of authority and responsibility within the ecclesiastical hierarchy. Yet to modern eyes, the notion of a secular count overseeing a sacred palace seems an incongruity, juxtaposing the sacred with the temporal in a manner that underscores the unique intersections of church and state. The count's duties, rooted in the administration of papal territories, highlight the practical necessities that underpin such lofty titles. Similarly, the Doge of the Most Serene Republic of Venice exemplified a title of grandeur, tempered by the reality of limited power within the Venetian oligarchy. The Doge, though adorned with the trappings of majesty, was subject to the whims of the city's ruling class, his serene title often belying the turbulence of Venetian politics. The concept of the Prince Bishop further complicates our understanding of medieval and Renaissance power structures. These ecclesiastical rulers wielded both spiritual and temporal power, an arrangement that seems paradoxical today. The blending of princely and episcopal authority was a pragmatic solution to the era's complexities, reflecting a world where the sacred and secular were deeply intertwined. This duality, while logical in its historical context, now strikes us as a curious relic of a bygone era, where titles were as much about navigating intricate power dynamics as they were about governance. In the martial realm, the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights carved out a space in the annals of history with a title steeped in chivalric tradition. This role, encompassing both leadership and martial prowess, was vital during the crusading and medieval periods, but now seems anachronistic, a vestige of a world where knights roamed and chivalry was the order of the day. Similar, Aralai, the King of the Wends, a title borne by Scandinavian monarchs, speaks to the fluidity of borders and the rise and fall of kingdoms. Though the Wends as a people have faded into history, the title persists, a reminder of the impermanence of nations and the enduring nature of regal nomenclature. The Duke of the Archipelago presents yet another facet of this tapestry, a title grand in name but limited in territorial scope, covering the scattered isles of the Aegean Sea. This title, while suggesting vast dominion, often represented a more modest reality, highlighting the creative license inherent in monarchical titles. The Margrave of the Holy Empire, with its military connotations, underscores the martial responsibilities that accompanied noble titles, revealing how these designations were as much about duty as they were about prestige. Finally, the Elector of Saxony grounds us in the political machinations of the Holy Roman Empire, where the elector's role in choosing the emperor was pivotal. In today's democratic context, such a title seems anachronistic, a reminder of how far political systems have evolved. As we reflect upon these titles, we are drawn into a world where power, identity, and tradition are inseparably entwined, leaving us with a deeper appreciation of the past and its enduring influence on our present. As we navigate the intricate tapestry of European history, the impact of royal titles on contemporary perceptions often reveals a curious blend of reverence, humor, and bewilderment. Titles, once markers of authority and nobility, now invite us to ponder their anachronistic charm and the peculiarities they encapsulate. Each title, steeped in its own historical context, acts as a passport to a bygone era, allowing us to traverse time and witness the evolution of power and identity. Consider the Grand Panjandrum of England, a title whose very name conjures images of pomp and circumstance, yet its origin is firmly rooted in satire. Coined in the 18th century by playwright Samuel Foote, it served as a playful jab at the pretentiousness of titles. The Grand Panjandrum was a fictional character in a nonsensical passage designed to test memory and language skills. illustrating how even the most grandiose titles can be born out of jest rather than genuine power. Today, it stands as a reminder of the absurdity that can sometimes underlie the pursuit of status, offering a wry smile to those who encounter its story. In a similar vein, the title of Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, which ironically held no dominion over Rome itself, underscores the complexities of political power in medieval Europe. The Holy Roman Empire, a patchwork of territories with little centralized control, was more symbolic than sovereign. Its title, suggesting a grandeur not matched by reality, invites modern observers to chuckle at the disparity between the title's implied power and the actual geopolitical influence wielded by its holders. The Holy Roman Emperor's lack of authority over the city of its namesake serves as a historical footnote that highlights the often theatrical nature of titles and their promises. Moving northward, the title King of all the Britons, used by both Scottish and English monarchs, reveals the grandiosity that can accompany assertions of dominion. In a time when the concept of a unified Britain was more aspirational than factual, this title attempted to encapsulate a sense of comprehensive rule. Over time, as political realities shifted and identities evolved, the title became standardized, reflecting a consolidation of power that had once been fragmented. Today, this grand title serves as both a historical curiosity and a testament to the complexities of national identity and unity in a region marked by dynamic change. The King of Jerusalem offers another intriguing glimpse into the symbolic power of titles. Post-Crusades, the title was often claimed by those who never set foot in the city itself, let alone ruled it. This tradition of titular kingship turned the title into a badge of honor and aspiration rather than actual governance. It symbolizes the enduring allure of Jerusalem and the lasting impact of the Crusades on European nobility's imagination. The King of Jerusalem title then becomes a narrative of longing and legacy, a chapter in his story that speaks to the ambitious dreams of medieval Europe. Similarly, the King of the Romans, bestowed upon the Holy Roman Emperor's successor, highlighted the ceremonial aspects of succession within the empire. This title, laden with prestige, served as a precursor to the full imperial title, yet remained notoriously redundant. It reminds us today of the often labyrinthine rituals surrounding monarchy and empire, offering a glimpse into how the trappings of power were carefully orchestrated to maintain both continuity and spectacle. In modern eyes, it appears more theatrical than authoritative, a vestige of a time when ceremony was as important as sovereignty. The Count of the Sacred Palace of Lateran, rooted within the Papal States, is another title that piques contemporary curiosity. Originally denoting a role entangled in both religious and administrative duties, the title's sacredness, juxtaposed with bureaucratic responsibilities, paints a picture of the intricate balancing act between church and state. Its perceived absurdity today lies in its somewhat grandiose phrasing, contrasting with the less illustrious nature of the duties it entailed. As we move through history, such titles illustrate the ongoing negotiation between spiritual authority and earthly governance, echoing through the corridors of power to our present day. In Venice, the title of the Doge, or the leader of the most serene republic, stands as a symbol of republican governance cloaked in monarchical imagery. Despite its grand title, the Doge wielded limited power, serving more as a figurehead than a true ruler. Anecdotes from Venice's history, where the Doge would process in full pomp only to find his powers checked by the city's complex political structure, serve as a testament to the often emblematic nature of titles. The contrast between the Doge's ceremonial role and his actual authority invites us to reflect on the nuances of leadership and the interplay between appearance and reality. Elsewhere, the prince-bishops of ecclesiastical principalities provide a fascinating paradox. Holding both secular and sacred power, these individuals navigated the delicate balance between their dual roles. Their title embodies the unique intersection of religion and politics in medieval Europe. Today, the notion of a prince-bishop may seem contradictory, yet it speaks to the historical context where such dualities were not only possible, but necessary. This duality, preserved in the title, reflects the enduring complexity of governance and the multifaceted nature of leadership, a theme that resonates through history to the present day. The Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights evokes the martial spirit of chivalric orders, a reminder of a time when military prowess and noble lineage were inextricably linked. This title, associated with a brotherhood of knights, carries connotations of both valor and hierarchy. In a contemporary setting, it appears as an anachronism, a relic of a past where chivalry held sway over the cultural narrative. Yet its legacy continues to inspire, reminding us of the enduring appeal of knightly ideals and the romanticism of a bygone era. In Scandinavia, the King of the Wends represents a title steeped in historical obscurity. The Wends, a now-defunct Slavic society, once held significance in the region's history, but today they are largely forgotten. The title, maintained out of tradition rather than relevance, serves as a poignant reminder of the fluidity of power and the ephemeral nature of empires. As we examine such titles, we glimpse the layers of history that lie beneath them, uncovering stories of forgotten peoples and shifting boundaries. The Duke of the Archipelago, a title that conjures images of vast territories, actually presided over a limited Mediterranean domain. This title, grand in name but modest in reality, highlights the discrepancies that can exist between perception and actuality. Its exaggerated claim serves as a historical footnote that underscores the fanciful nature of titles and their enduring allure. In a world where names and titles often outstrip physical realities, the Duke of the Archipelago stands as a testament to the imaginative narratives spun by history. Lastly, the Margrave of the Holy Empire, with its military connotations, reveals the martial undertones that often accompanied noble titles. Margraves, tasked with defending the empire's borders, held significant influence in their time. Today, the title's weighty implications seem somewhat inflated, a relic of a bygone era when military might was paramount. This title invites us to consider the shifting sands of power and the ways in which martial prowess was once enshrined in the very fabric of leadership. Through these explorations, we glimpse the intricate dance between history and identity, where titles serve as both markers of authority and symbols of the times from which they emerged. As we conclude our journey through the most ridiculous royal titles, we appreciate their role in shaping not only the past, but also our understanding of the present. In these titles, we find echoes of the quirks and complexities that define European history, a tapestry woven with threads of power, tradition, and the indomitable human spirit. From the peculiar titles that have adorned the annals of European history, the King of all the Britons stands as a testament to the grandiosity and unification efforts that marked the medieval and early modern periods. This title evokes images of sprawling lands under a single scepter, hinting at a time when the notion of rulership extended beyond mere physical boundaries to the concept of a united cultural and political entity. The journey of this title starts amidst the rolling hills and misty vales of the British Isles, where the complex tapestry of regional and national identities weaves into the broader narrative of a kingdom seeking unity. Initially employed by the monarchs of Scotland and later England, this title aimed to encapsulate a vision of sovereignty that transcended individual realms. It was more than a name, it was a declaration of dominion over not just territory, but also over the distinct peoples of these lands. This claim of kingship over all Britons symbolized an aspiration for consolidation, albeit one fraught with the challenges of diverse traditions and resistant local leaders. Historically, the use of such an encompassing title reflects the ambitions of monarchs striving to assert their supremacy across various regions, each with its distinct cultural identity. The medieval era was characterized by a fractious political landscape, where alliances were as transient as the winds sweeping over the highlands. The title, therefore, was not just a statement of fact, but rather an aspiration, a goal to be achieved through diplomacy, war, and marriage. It became a rallying cry for unity during times when political fragmentation threatened stability. Through the centuries, the title's grandiosity mirrored the shifting dynamics of power and politics. As Scottish and English monarchs grappled with internal and external pressures, they employed such titles to project strength and legitimacy. However, it wasn't just a matter of pomp. It was also a strategic maneuver in the Game of Thrones, where appearance often trumped reality. The title's eventual standardization came about with the Acts of Union, which sought to bind the kingdoms of Scotland and England into a more cohesive entity, thus lending a semblance of reality to the once idealistic proclamation. In contemporary times, the title's grand claims can seem almost humorous, a relic of an era where monarchs aspired to the grandeur of empires. Today, when viewed through the lens of modern nationalism and regional autonomy, the notion of being king of all the Britons appears more symbolic than literal. It evokes a time when rulers dreamt of vast dominions under their control, echoing an era of larger-than-life ambitions and imperial dreams. It's a reminder of how language can be used to forge identity and shape power, even when the reality on the ground tells a more complex story. This title, along with others we explore, serves as a fascinating window into the psyche of Saint rulers. It reflects their efforts to articulate authority not merely through the wielding of power, but through the crafting of an image that could stand the test of time. It is in such titles that we see the intricate dance of politics and identity, where words become a battlefield for legitimacy and control. This brings us to another fascinating title, one that highlights the peculiar nature of claiming dominion over lands and titles far from one's immediate grasp. The King of Jerusalem, a title held by monarchs who never ruled the city, offers a paradoxical narrative. Emerging from the fervor of the Crusades, this title became a symbol of Christendom's aspirations and its enduring legacy. It illustrates the medieval mindset, where the spiritual and temporal realms were intertwined, and where a title could hold profound meaning despite its practical irrelevance. Those who bore it, including European kings and queens, wielded the title as a badge of honor, a connection to the sacred and a testament to their lineage's crusading zeal. This symbolic title underscores how, in the realm of nobility, the weight of history often overshadowed the realities of power. For many, the King of Jerusalem was a dream unfulfilled, an echo of ideals that transcended time and geography. It serves as a potent reminder of the ambitions that drove the medieval world, where the allure of distant lands could stir imaginations and fuel dynastic claims. Even today, the title evokes the romance and tragedy of history's grand narratives, where the lines between reality and aspiration often blur. Turning our gaze to another intriguing title, the King of the Romans, we delve into the intricacies of Holy Roman Empire politics. This title, given to the emperor's successor, was steeped in ceremony and significance. It was less about ruling the Romans than about being seen as the rightful heir to the imperial throne. In this, we find a title that was as much about heritage and the preservation of imperial dignity as it was about ruling any particular people. In modern eyes, the title may appear redundant, almost comedic, as it embodies the layered complexities and sometimes contradictory nature of medieval politics. Yet, it also sheds light on how titles were instruments of continuity, ensuring the transition of power and maintaining the lineage's sacred aura. The King of the Romans, like other titles of its time, was an essential piece in the puzzle of medieval sovereignty, a testament to the intricate web of allegiances and traditions that shaped the political landscape. Equally intriguing is the title of the Count of the Sacred Palace of Lateran, a vestige of the religious and temporal authority wielded within the Papal States. This title, while majestic in its phrasing, belies the often mundane reality of its bearer's responsibilities, managing aspects of the papal bureaucracy. Here, the grandeur of the title contrasts sharply with its prosaic function, highlighting the disparity between appearance and reality that often characterized noble titles. The dichotomy present in such titles provides a fascinating study in how power is articulated and perceived. In this, they serve as microcosms of the broader historical currents that shaped Europe, where appearances were meticulously crafted to maintain the delicate balance of power, reverence, and authority. Whether through the aggrandizement of a title or the intricate ceremonies that surrounded it, the delicate dance of medieval power reveals itself in the title's enduring allure. Continuing this exploration of titles that defy expectation, we look to the Most Serene Republic's Doge, a title that evokes the grandeur of Venice at its height. Yet, while the title suggests unfettered power, the Doge's reality was one of limitation and ceremonial grandeur, reflecting the unique republican structure of Venice, where power was distributed among its leading citizens. The title of Doge, then, is a masterclass in contrasts, where the ceremonial often eclipsed the practical, and where the title holder was both a symbol of the city's splendor and a prisoner of its political system. In this, the Doge becomes a canvas upon which the city-state painted its ideals, projecting an image of unity and stability amidst a complex web of governance. Each title, with its unique story and context, gives us a perspective on how societies have navigated the challenges of identity, power, and prestige. Through them, we see the echoes of past ambitions, the struggles for legitimacy, and the often humorous disconnect between titles and their realities. As we reflect on these narratives, we find not just the absurdity of certain titles, but also a deep-seated understanding of how they came to be and why they continue to fascinate us. These titles take us on a journey through time, unraveling the complexities and ironies that have shaped the tapestry of European nobility. As we delve into the history of the title King of all the Britons, we find ourselves amidst a narrative woven with power, ambition, and a touch of grandiose imagination. Its roots trace back to a time when the political landscape of the British Isles was a patchwork of rival kingdoms, each vying for supremacy and dominance. The title itself was born out of the aspiration for unity, a symbolic gesture intended to convey the monarch's dominion over all the lands inhabited by the Britons. It emerged during an era when the kingdoms of England and Scotland sought to extend their influence, each claiming legitimacy over the territories they coveted. This quest for unification was not merely a political maneuver, but also a strategic narrative crafted to consolidate power and assert authority. The notion of all the Britons was as much a statement of intent as it was a declaration of rule. Yet, the title's grandeur often belied the reality of its holder's control. The kings who bore this title found themselves in a perpetual dance of diplomacy, warfare, and negotiation as they navigated the tumultuous waters of medieval politics. The legacy of these monarchs is a testament to the relentless pursuit of a vision, an ambition that sought to bridge the divides and create a singular entity from a mosaic of cultures and allegiances. In modern times, King of all the Britons is viewed with a sense of historical curiosity, its grandiosity tempered by the knowledge that true unity eluded many of its bearers. The title, once a powerful tool of propaganda, now serves as a reminder of the complex interplay between aspiration and reality. It is a tapestry of stories that reveal the ambitions of the past, painted with the hues of noble intentions and the shades of human folly. The legacy of titles extends beyond borders, weaving into the fabric of European history tales of conquest and legacy, of dreams realized and aspirations lost. As we turn our gaze to the title of the King Who Never Reigned, the King of Jerusalem, we find ourselves in the aftermath of the Crusades, a period marked by fervor and fanaticism, characterized by fervent religious zeal and the pursuit of divine mandate. It was an era that birthed a title laden with symbolism and irony. Bestowed upon rulers who never set foot in the Holy City, the title of King of Jerusalem became a poignant symbol of unfulfilled dreams. It was a vestige of the Crusades, when European monarchs aspired to claim the spiritual heart of Christianity. Yet, through the ebb and flow of time, it remained largely titular, a badge of honor worn by rulers whose claims to the throne were more aspirational than actual. Its enduring nature serves as a testament to the enduring power of symbolism, a crown of thorns worn proudly, even if only in name. The title's enduring allure lies in its ability to evoke a vision of a distant land, steeped in history and faith. It is a reminder of a time when the quest for spiritual dominion intertwined with aspirations of temporal power, a complex tapestry of faith, ambition, and myth. Despite its lack of practical influence, the title of King of Jerusalem continues to resonate, an echo of an era that has long passed but remains alive in the annals of history. As we traverse these storied titles, we encounter the King of the Romans, a designation bestowed upon the chosen successor of the Holy Roman Emperor, intended to signify the continuation of imperial authority. Yet, in its ceremonial significance, it bore an inherent redundancy, a title granted to one who was not yet emperor, existing in the shadow of a throne not yet their own. It encapsulates the intricate dance of power and succession, where titles were both a promise of future rule and a reflection of the political machinations of the time. The title's humorous undertone emerges when viewed through the lens of modernity, where the concept of a king awaiting his realm feels anachronistic, a relic of a bygone era where political power was as much about perception as it was about reality. It is a reminder of the dual nature of royal titles, where grandeur and absurdity often walk hand in hand, creating a narrative rich with irony and intrigue. Venturing further into the realm of peculiar titles, we arrive at the doors of the Lateran Palace, home to the Count of the Sacred Palace of Lateran. Within the Papal States, this title held a peculiar significance, embodying the intersection of temporal and spiritual power. The responsibilities associated with it were steeped in ceremony, yet the title itself seemed larger than life, almost absurd in its grandeur. The historical context of the title reveals a world where the lines between earthly influence and divine right were perpetually blurred, a testament to the intricate web of power that characterized the Papal States. Yet, in its perceived absurdity, the title highlights the human penchant for creating layers of authority, where titles become both a symbol of prestige and a reflection of the complex structures they were meant to uphold. In the heart of Venice, the most serene republic bore witness to the title of Doge, a position that encapsulated the unique governance of the city-state. The Doge's role, rich in ceremonial significance, was paradoxically limited in actual power, a title grand in appearance but constrained by the checks and balances of Venetian democracy. Historical anecdotes paint a picture of a title that, while steeped in dignity, existed within a framework that ensured the republic's stability, balancing the grandeur of the title with the realities of governance. As we explore the peculiarities of each title, we find the narratives interwoven with tales of prince-bishops, the dual role that combined ecclesiastical authority with princely power. This unique fusee, on of spiritual and temporal influence, forged a title that was as paradoxical as it was powerful, rulers who were both shepherds of faith and stewards of land. The prince-bishops wielded influence that transcended borders, their titles embodying the intricate dance of church and state that defined much of European history. Through these narratives, we glimpse the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights, a title rooted in the chivalric orders of medieval Europe. It is a testament to the martial and noble ideals that guided the knights, yet its contemporary perception often reduces it to an anachronism, a relic of a time when knighthood and chivalry were the defining features of nobility. The title, with its historical roots, serves as a reflection of the evolving nature of honor and duty. The exploration continues with the title of King of the Wends, a vestige of a once thriving society that has since vanished into history. The title, used by Scandinavian monarchs, is a reminder of the ephemeral nature of power and the fluidity of borders, a relic from an age where titles were both a declaration of rule and a nod to the historical narratives they sought to preserve. The Wends, a people long absorbed into the annals of time, live on through the title, a curious footnote in the chronicles of European royalty. In the Mediterranean, the Duke of the Archipelago emerges, a title that speaks to the vastness of ambition and the limitations of reality. Though grand in name, its dominion was often limited, a title that promised much but delivered little, a testament to the hyperbolic nature of titles that sought to command respect even when the lands they governed were but a fraction of their implied scope. The journey through these titles brings us to the Margrave of the Holy Empire, a title steeped in military connotations and territorial guard. It represents the martial spirit of the Middle Ages, where titles carried with them the weight of defense and conquest. Yet, in today's context, the title's significance seems inflated, a reminder of a time when borderlands were battlegrounds and titles were both a shield and a sword. Finally, we encounter the Elector of Saxony, a title that held crucial significance within the electoral system of the Holy Roman Empire. It was a position of influence and prestige, where the power to elect the emperor lay in the hands of a few. This title, while historically significant, now seems an oddity, a reflection of a political system that seems antiquated in the age of democracy, where titles are often stripped of their former might. Reflecting on the absurdity and grandeur of these titles offers insight into the cultural and historical context that shaped them, revealing the complexities and quirks of European history. In the intricate tapestry of European history, woven with threads of power and ambition, the titles held by monarchs and nobles often served as both badges of honor and symbols of authority. Yet, in their grandiosity, they sometimes bordered on the absurd, an extravagance that belied the realities of power and politics. Among these, the title King of all the Britons stands out, embodying both the dreams of unity and the complexities of identity within a divided landscape. This title, employed by Scottish and English monarchs, was more than a mere claim to territorial dominion. It was an assertion of supremacy and an aspiration towards unifying disparate realms under a single crown. The title's origin can be traced back to an era when the British Isles were a mosaic of competing kingdoms and principalities, each with its own ruler and ambitions. Yet the choice of words, all the Britons, was as much about perception as it was about reality, for the title suggested a consolidation that remained, for many years, an elusive goal. Despite its lofty implications, the title gradually became standardized through a series of political maneuvers, marriages, and battles that brought the various parts of the British Isles under one rule. This process, however, was anything but straightforward. The unification of England and Scotland under the same monarch in 1603 under James VI and marked a significant step towards the realization of this title. Yet it took another century before the Act of Union in 1707 legally cemented the concept of a single, united Britain. The adoption and standardization of the title, King of all the Britons, underscore a fascinating interplay between ambition and reality, one where the grandeur of titles served to mask the complexities of power dynamics within these united yet distinct territories. In modern times, such a title appears grandiose, an echo of an era when rulers sought to project their strength through words as much as through deeds. It reflects the timeless human desire for unity and control, a desire that often confronts the stubborn realities of cultural and political diversity. This blend of aspiration and reality is not unique to the British Isles. Across Europe, royal titles often served similar purposes, encapsulating the peculiarities of historical circumstances and ambitions. Take, for instance, the title of the King Who Never Reigned, the King of Jerusalem. This title, appearing after the fervor of the Crusades, was laden with symbolic meaning rather than actual power. It was a relic of a time when European nobles dreamed of establishing lasting Christian rule in the Holy Land. The title was held by various monarchs and nobles who, in reality, wielded no control over Jerusalem itself, their claims more a testament to lost causes and romanticized pasts than to concrete authority. The title's endurance in the annals of history serves as a poignant reminder of how deeply intertwined legend and power were in shaping European nobility. It stands as a symbol of the enduring allure of the crusading spirit, a title passed down through generations as a badge of honor imbued with nostalgia rather than governance. This curious blend of symbolism and legacy highlights how titles could evolve into artifacts of history, with meanings that transcend their original intentions and reflect the complexities of the eras from which they emerged. Similarly, the King of the Romans presents another fascinating examination of historical circumstance versus titular grandeur. Serving as a title for the heir to the Holy Roman Empire, it was a cornerstone of imperial succession, laced with ceremonial significance. Yet this title, which implied control over Rome, was often more an expectation than a reality, given that the city itself lay outside the emperor's dominion. This peculiar contradiction illustrates the dissonance between titles and territorial control, a recurring theme in the history of royal nomenclature. It is this dissonance, the gap between title and reality, that often lends a comedic tone to these grand designations. Today, the idea of a King of the Romans evokes thoughts of medieval pageantry rather than actual rule, a reminder of the pomp and circumstance that surrounded royal courts. Titles like these, stripped of their original power and influence, now serve as windows into the past, revealing the theatrical nature of royal politics. In the Papal States, the title Count of the Sacred Palace of Lateran carried with it the weight of ecclesiastical and secular authority, yet its seemingly inflated importance belied the limited role it played within the broader machinations of the Vatican. Such titles, infused with religious and political significance, often bordered on the absurd from a modern standpoint. They highlight the complexities of governance in territories where church and state were deeply intertwined, a relationship that shaped the power structures of the time. In Venice, the title of the Doge of the Most Serene Republic represented the pinnacle of the city-state's unique blend of republicanism and aristocracy. Despite its grand name, the Doge's powers were often circumscribed, a figurehead within a system that prized collective governance over monarchical rule. The contrast between the title's grandeur and the Doge's actual role serves as a testament to Venice's distinctive political structure, one where the balance of power was as much about checks and limitations as it was about titles. Elsewhere, the paradox of the prince-bishops further illustrates the curious duality of titles in European history. These ecclesiastical principalities, where rulers held both religious and secular authority, exemplify the era's complex interweaving of faith and power. Figures such as the Prince-Bishop of Liège wielded influence that was as spiritual as it was political, embodying the paradox inherent in titles that conferred dual roles. In examining these titles today, we glimpse the intricate dance between the sacred and the secular that defines so much of Europe's past. The Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights, meanwhile, stood as a martial symbol of chivalric ideals, a title rooted in the medieval crusading orders. Yet as time marched on, the title became an anachronism, a romanticized relic of a bygone age. In its martial and noble connotations, it evokes the valor and pageantry of knighthood, while also highlighting the inevitable passage of time that renders once powerful titles into quaint echoes of history. Among Scandinavian monarchs, the title King of the Wends encapsulates the peculiarities of medieval territorial claims. The Wends, a now defunct society, were once significant enough to merit inclusion in royal titles. Yet today, it serves as a reminder of the fluidity of borders and the transformations of society over the centuries. Such titles, rooted in the beliefs and geopolitics of their time, often seem peculiar from a contemporary perspective, illustrating how history reshapes the meanings of power and identity. The Duke of the Archipelago's claim over a limited Mediterranean domain further highlights the exaggerated scope of some titles. While the name suggests vast ownership, the reality was often far more constrained, a testament to the ambitious nature of noble titles that sought prestige in name, if not in reality. These titles, often more symbolic than substantive, reflect the aspirations and idiosyncrasies of their holders, who navigated the intricate web of European nobility. In the corridors of the Holy Roman Empire, the title of Margrave carried strong military connotations, with its bearers often tasked with defending the empire's frontier. Yet, like many titles, its importance was subject to the vicissitudes of history, evolving into a name that, in hindsight, seems grandiose when stripped of its original martial context. The title's evolution reflects the shifting sands of power and the transformations of military and political landscapes over the centuries. Finally, the Elector of Saxony, one of the key players in the imperial electoral system, wielded significant influence in choosing the Holy Roman Emperor. However, the notion of electors, a reflection of a political system deeply rooted in feudalism, now appears anachronistic in today's democratic context. The evolution of these titles, with their blend of influence and absurdity, offers a window into the complexities of a bygone political order. In reflecting upon these titles, we are reminded of the cultural and historical context that shaped them. They reveal not only the stratagems of power and prestige, but also the peculiarities that defined Europe's past. Through these titles, we glimpse the ambitions, dreams, and peculiarities of those who wielded them, offering a kaleidoscopic view of a continent defined by its history's quirks and complexities.